every individual to seek knowledge. There are schools that are set up, there are madrasas that are set up, there are Darul Ulooms that are set up to facilitate that. Now, if somebody asks, show me where's the proof that you must have a madrasa, or you must have a formal syllabus, or you must have a Darul Uloom, etc. These are all there to support people in acquiring that fundamental acquisition of knowledge. Similarly, halal certification bodies have been set up purely to assist Muslims and to guide Muslims and support them in the process of firstly having accessibility to halal products and guiding them with regards to halal dietary law. So various Quranic ayat emphasize the importance of halal consumption. In fact, there is one ayah that stands out. Ya ayyuhar rusulu kulu min at-tayyibati wa amalu salihah, stands out in the sense that it gives you reveals the very intrinsic and important nature and correlation between halal consumption and righteous deeds. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enjoins upon the Anbiya, Ya ayyuhar rusul, O messengers, kulu min at-tayyibat, eat of that which is tayyib, which is wholesome, which is pure, which is halal. And halal and tayyib are synonymous. Wa amalu salihah, so that you are able to do righteous deeds. Conversely, if people are indifferent to halal consumption, we see the effect of it as well. All types of vice. And in essence, just like nutritious food builds one's physical immunity, in a similar manner, doubtful food, haram food, weakens a person's spiritual immunity. So to build one's spiritual immunity, one has to ensure that what is consumed is halal. And halal is for all humanity. It's not only for believers. The enjoyment in the Quran, Ya ayyuhan nasu kulu mimma fil ardi halalan tayyiba. All humanity, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is our creator, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows exactly what is going to be beneficial for this creation that he has created, and therefore he has enjoined halal consumption for the entire humanity. If we find the more people consume halal, and really we have this firm conviction and belief that the more widespread we make halal, the more people have access to halal, inshallah, it will be a means of their heart softening towards hidayah and guidance in Islam as well, inshallah. One hadith that I'd like to also mention about Anas radiallahu anhu, where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told him that if you want to become mustajabud da'wah, where you want your du'as to be accepted, then ensure that your earnings and your consumption is halal. So this is, we should always keep at the back of our minds that this entire concept of halal certification, what is the purpose of it? What is the foundation of it? What are the objectives of it? And what is the mission of these organizations that is trying to secure and preserve the right of the Muslims to eat halal products. So the consumer, the Muslim community, the consumer is indeed, or should always be, the core focus of halal certification bodies and the halal certification service that is rendered. Without a Muslim consumer, you are wasting your time. And we see this. You go to America and Latin America, or many places in Europe, alhamdulillah, over the last decade and a half, there's lots of awareness that is created. But at a time, even now, if you visit many countries, you will not find a single halal certified butcher. Yes, you'll have lots of people opened up shops and making claims of halal, but you will rarely find bakeries that are certified halal, restaurants that are certified halal, butcher shops that are certified halal, or even products in supermarkets. Globally, there are halal certification bodies all over. Their primary need was motivated by countries that required halal products. So Brazil, for an example, exports a huge amount of poultry. They're, in fact, one of the largest exporters of halal poultry to the Muslim world. But the motivation hasn't been the Muslim community. Even if they're small, we're also not a very large community in South Africa. 1% or 2% of the Muslim community we are in this country, yet every commercial poultry abattoir is certified halal by one body or the other. In Brazil, there is abundant product produced halal, beef, poultry products, but at retail level, you will not find halal butcheries. You won't find halal products available to the consumers. If you attend the masjid on a Friday, you will find that they have people that come there with their bakkies and their little refrigerated vehicles, and are selling product on a weekly basis to people who want truly halal products. So alhamdulillah, we have a lot to be thankful for here in this country. The level of education, the level of awareness is fundamental for people to understand the need for halal and to make halal choices. Indeed, it is a means of preservation of one's faith. And the greatest benefit that Muslim consumers get is that with halal certification is that they have accessibility to halal products. Imagine if you walk through a supermarket in South Africa, and just for your information, South Africa being a non-Muslim country with a Muslim minority, just 1-2% of the Muslim community, yet if you walk through our supermarket, you'll find an average of 60% of products on supermarket shelves which are certified halal. Now, it makes it so easy for Muslim consumers to walk through a supermarket and pick up products because you see the halal logo. It gives you that level of assurance and confidence and comfort. So, alhamdulillah. We commence with the presentation, and I hope that inshallah it will be beneficial to our attendees. There is generally a widespread misconception amongst a fake segment of the community where we feel that people understand and perceive halal to be only that which is related to slaughter. Yes, in the modern day abattoir scenario, there are various other aspects with regards to stunning mechanisms and restraining mechanisms, etc., used. And when it's poultry, whether it's hand slaughter or machine slaughter, those are technical issues which are important indeed. However, the general misconception is that halal pertains to slaughter. With this presentation, I'd like to take you through the process from the early days, and we call them the good old days, where bread was made at home. We never had a concept of going, every day for every meal. Our women folk used to bake fresh bread. Vegetables, we had a small vegetable patch, and in the backyard, and your essential vegetables were grown there. If you look at this picture, you'd think this is Pakistan or Lahore, but no, this is New York City. New York City in the early 1900s. Our flour was milled at home. Spices and seasonings were blended at home. There was no just going to the supermarket and buying a Robertson's barbecue spice. No, everything was ground at home. Marmalades and sauces, our mothers made at home. Yogurt, a simple thing like yogurt. There was no concept of going to the supermarket to buy yogurt. The extra milk that they bought, or the milk that was that passed its date, they would use it for making yogurt and curdling it and making it into yogurt. Now we're at a stage over the last, I would say, 50 to 60 years, with the advancement of food technology. It hasn't gone centuries. It's just over the last 6 decades that we see this huge advancement in food technology, where products are even genetically modified. In South Africa, you will not find a single product a single tomato product that is not genetically modified. All the tomatoes we have in South Africa are genetically modified. Corn starch and corn is extensively also going through this modification. Not only that, even the fish we buy, or the soya beans, the tomatoes, the animal feeds, etc., they all are genetically modified. Uh, in fact, there's so much of advancement that if you look at this particular article that I picked up, laboratory manufactured meat. So there's no concept of slaughter, but you know, with cells and other media, they are putting together meat products in the laboratory. That's a separate presentation on itself, but just to give you an idea as to the importance and the need for halal certification as we're going to go further and further along. And due to our population growth, we approximately 6 odd billion projected to be in the next 10, 15 years. You know, there's going to be another 20% odd increase in that. So intensive farming has become a major thing. You know, poultry. Before, we used to only get organic poultry. You know, you go to the butcher and yes, you get these large African chickens that we used to buy, and yeah, cook that on a daily basis. But now with the population growth, there's intensive farming and commercial poultry abattoirs. There's feedlot cattle available, feedlot lamb and sheep available. So those old days of going to the farm and having your things slaughtered is no longer prevalent. And yes, then there's the challenge of the multinationals globally. You know, so you can get a multinational in South Africa complying 100%, but that wouldn't necessarily be the case, you know, and just as it is important, you know, we're living in a global village. So not only when you travel, but you will find we've got a Nestle factory here, you've got a Unilever factory here making ice creams. You will get in various parts of the world, there are producers of similar products by the same companies. And the challenges consumers face is that you think Unilever's Ola ice cream is fine in South Africa, but somebody decides to import. You know, there's no restrictions and trade barriers. Somebody decides to import a product from Portugal or from China or from UK or from the USA. Same brand name, but the product made in South Africa is compliant, the product imported is not, okay? Then whether it's food that our mothers make at home, all the ingredients that we use, whether it's the salad dressings that are purchased, whether it's the meat that is purchased. So it's not only restaurant food that we've got to be concerned about. You know, that you take the children for a burger or a sandwich to a restaurant. It's not only that food, but even the food that we are preparing at home, because all the raw materials is not freshly made. It's products that we're buying, the marinades, the seasonings, everything is purchased from the supermarket shelves by our families. So we just go through a glimpse of critical areas in the food industry, various segments of the food industry, so that you have some idea. The bakery industry we'll look at briefly, the dairy industry, the snack industry, confectionery industry, culinary industry, beverage industry, and last but not the least, the hospitality industry and the pharmaceutical and cosmetics industry. Now, if you look at the bakery industry, whoever thinks twice when you go to a bakery, you're buying a loaf of bread, who thinks twice about, can there be anything wrong in this loaf of bread? In countries like the UK, alhamdulillah, the organizations, they have did great work, and they've identified bakery products that have non-halal ingredients, and the community are quite aware now as to which breads they can buy and which breads they can't. So, but what's wrong with bread? One would ask, what could be wrong with bread? It's regarded as the most neutral item when one walks into a bakery. But yes, there are concerns. What's the bakery fats that are used? You know, it's unlike the old days where they used to, you know, take your flour and salt and water and make a loaf of bread which wouldn't last you more than a day. Nowadays, there's premixes that are purchased. So yes, what fat are they using in the bread? Is there any lard content in the product at all? What is lard? And you all would know that lard is fat that is derived from hogs and pigs. Pan greases. Now, all your ingredients could be fine. Your premixes could be fine. What is a pan grease? To ensure that the bakery product does not stick to the pan itself. So they grease and lubricate the pan. What are they lubricating it with? What is the pan greasing agent? It's not an ingredient in the bread, but obviously it comes into direct contact with the bread. It contains mono and diglycerides. What is the source of those mono and diglycerides? Are they animal-based? Are they plant-based or palm-based? So, these are critical things that are looked at. Is the pan grease from a pork source, from a pig fat source? What are the baking additives that have been used? As I mentioned earlier, you buy a ready premix. It's got flour and a host of other ingredients. And yes, these additives help in the shelf life. Before you buy a loaf of bread, and I said 2 days later it would be stale. You can buy a loaf of bread today and have it a week later, 10 days later, and it would be as fresh as the day you purchased it. So there's flour improvers that are used in there. There are dough conditioners that are used in there. What are they? What actually goes into that premix? A very commonly used conditioner and flour improver is cysteine. What is the source of it? And if you look at this, you might be perplexed at but it's strands of hair. And yes, cysteine is a commonly used ingredient in the food industry, also the flavor industry, and it can come from human hair. So the hair that you cut at the salon and at the barber shop is not thrown away into the garbage. It's collected and it's used, sold to the industry for some money, and these ingredients are extracted from there. What are the fortification agents? And what's a fortification agent? Where vitamins and essential elements are added to staple foods so that the nutritional content of those foods is improved. So you would get them as part of your premix, or sometimes even added to the manufacture in all staple foods. So it's not only bakery products, but you can get fortification in other staple foods also, whether they be maize, mealie meal, or even milk products in some countries are being fortified. Then in the bakery industry, commonly used ingredient, and we had this exercise we did some years ago, where we even told housewives, besides just the hospitality industry, that they should bring their brush in, and if the basting brush is made of pork, then we would replace it free of charge, just to create that education and awareness. And yes, extensively, whether it's the bakeries or whether it's the tikka shops that baste the chicken tikka products on the grill, or whether it's the barbecue that we have at home and the basting brush we buy with the barbecue set. These three brushes that you see in the cup are all from hog hair, all pork bristle, and used extensively, not only by the food industry, but also by our mothers and wives in our homes. Then in the bakery industry as well, fortunately in South Africa, majority of it is the eggs that we purchase are cleaned. But in the industry and the egg manufacturers and people that are doing servicing the industry with egg yolk and egg white, they do get from farms, and not all farms provide clean eggs. So you get a lot of eggs with impurities on them, whether they be fecal impurities or whether they be blood impurities. But it is a concern. From a halal perspective, you think, why do you need to certify eggs? But yes, these are the things that we look at in the industry. Delicacies. Cakes, confectionery. I recall in the good old days, we used to go to a place called Fontana in Hillbrow, and they used to make the best Black Forest cakes available. Only later to find out that commonly used in Black Forest cakes is alcohol and liquor. So yes, let's look at the dairy industry. This also is generally regarded as a neutral industry. People are not too aware and conscious about the fact that I'm going to buy a dairy product, whether it be a processed cheese or whether it be a yogurt or whether it be a yogurt drink. Could there be anything problematic in there? Commonly used ingredient in dairy in yogurts is a stabilizer, and very, very commonly the stabilizer is gelatin. Okay, so what is gelatin? It is an animal protein, and yes, it's denatured collagen. What are the sources of gelatin? It can be either animal hide or animal bone. It's extracted from collagen or by the denaturization process of collagen. The sources are majority of the sources. Now it's not even 40-odd%. It's gone over to about 51% of the sources of all gelatin globally is from pork. There's about 30-odd% from cattle. Then there's a small percentage from poultry, a very minuscule percentage from poultry, and also from marine sources, from fish. That's a graph. It's widely used in the industry, whereas the food and beverage industry uses up to more than 63% now. In the technical and photography industry, also extensively used. Now with digital photography, that would also be decreased extensively. Pharmaceuticals use it as well. And we'll come to that when we do that particular segment of the industry. And in nutraceutical and cosmetic products as well, is a small little overview of how gelatin is manufactured. We're not going to go into that much. What is the ruling, the Shari'ah ruling? Now, there are differences amongst the scholars. Some of them feel that all gelatin goes through a process of transformation and metamorphosis, which they term in fiqh terminology as inqilab al-mahiyya or istihala, where there is a change, where it's no longer the original ingredient that it was. So those that believe that that is the case, they wouldn't be concerned about whether the animal is slaughtered halal or it's not slaughtered halal. Fortunately, on the issue of pork, there's consensus. Even those that believe in transformation find it a bit difficult to accept transformation from pork sources. But if there's transformation, then transformation can be applied across the board. We don't believe this transformation, and therefore we insist that if gelatin is derived from cattle source, then it must be slaughtered halal, or from poultry source also it must be slaughtered halal. If it's from a non-halal slaughtered source or non-dhabiha source, then it would be haram. We wouldn't accept it at all. And obviously with fish products, there's consensus amongst everybody that such gelatin is halal. So it's used as stabilizers, and that's the gelatin powder or the denatured collagen that you're looking at. In the processed cheese industry, it is a major cause of concern as well. And besides that, I mean, if we look at cheeses, there would be the coagulant enzymes that are used to coagulate the milk or to clot the milk. They use enzymes. What's the source of that enzyme? Is it animal enzyme? Is it calf, rennet? Is it pork lipase? Is it pepsin? What is it? So that is critical in processed cheeses. It can be, as I said, from cattle or porcine source, which is critical. Then in addition, in the dairy industry, whether it's these confectionery dessert products or yogurts as well, is the colorant. What is the colorant that they're using? And very commonly used natural colorant that is used by the industry is E120, the additive E120, which is extensively used by the industry, and it is derived from this insect, the cochineal insect. Now, these insects are harvested in places like Mexico, India, China, and farmed, properly farmed, and then they take them and dry them in the sun and then crush them, and then this dye is extracted from their bodies. So insects, whilst insects are not uh, 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 impure, but definitely for consumption purposes they're haram. So they aren't to the level of porcine, which is not only haram and forbidden, but it's also a core impurity. Insects are haram for consumption, or insect parts are haram for consumption, but they are not najis or impure in that sense. Ice cream products, yes, there are specialty ice creams as well that we've got to be extremely careful about, where alcohol and gelatin is used. This is a Unilever product, not in South Africa, in Europe, where they were using actual rum. So rum and raisin, fortunately, you know, in the factories here, they're using a flavor. But in some places, they do use genuine rum. In this particular instance, rum from the West Indies was used. Enzymes are also a major problem in this industry that we've got to check for. And yes, in this NAN-HA product produced in Germany, we found them using an enzyme that was from pork sauce. You know, so you've got to be circumspect. We can't just accept things on face value to say, look, it's just probably skimmed milk, and there wouldn't be anything problematic in that. The snack industry as well, critical. Some 22 years ago, when we received an application from a major snack manufacturer, we found 8 of their products that contained hydrolyzed chicken skin, which contained dehydrated chicken fat as part of the seasoning. And we just think, it's a slice of potato with a bit of masala or seasoning on top. What could be a problem? But yes, cheese powders are used extensively in snack seasonings. You've got to again check what's the enzymes that was used in the cheese manufacture. The seasoning is critical. What does the seasoning contain? The whey powder that is used in there, what's the source of the whey? And whey is a byproduct in cheese manufacture. So if your animal enzyme was problematic, your whey is going to be problematic. Then the frying oil that they used, what's the source of it? Is it vegetable, or is it a blend of vegetable and others? What are the refining agents, etc., used in the oil? Let's look at the confectionery industry. And yes, not only our children, but I know of lots of adults that enjoy confectionery. A major issue with confectionery industry is gelatin as well again. Marshmallows, your soft gummies, and soft chewy candies. Gelatin is a major component in there of concern. Glycerin also extensively used. What's the source of the glycerin? Is it plant-based? Is it animal fat-based? Yeah, you know, we without even realizing, many just indiscriminately feed their children candies without checking the ingredients, not even knowing what they're giving them to lick and suck on. Liquor also in the confectionery industry. This is a famous Butler's chocolate, which actually uses actual Irish whiskey in the recipe. Flavorants are also a very critical area of concern in this particular industry, and so are colorants. Look at these. These are some samples, your jellies and gummies. And this is a product that I took a photo of this particular product some years back, Bassett's sour wine gums, and they don't contain any wine. However, if you look at the ingredients, I picked it up at the Dubai duty free. And if you look at the ingredients, it says very clearly it contains gelatin, and that gelatin is of porcine sauce, pig sauce. This was a product imported into South Africa, a Cadbury product. So whilst the Cadbury chocolates here, we've got a level of satisfaction on that they're halal suitable, this particular product was imported from the UK, and it also contained gelatin of porcine sauce, of pig sauce. So we've got to be very circumspect with especially imported confectionery products. Culinary industry also the same. And just an example, you buy a sauce and you don't know what the seasonings are in there. In this particular instance, I just want to highlight to you that these salad dressings, a lot of them contain egg white as a base ingredient. Now, when they cook in the manufacturing process, when you cook egg white, it's going to coagulate. So to avoid coagulation, they were using a porcine ingredient that prevented coagulation. So, you know, you'd think, I'm just going to have salad, going to this function, and I'm not sure about the meat and things they're serving. So we'll just have salad, and then you're not sure of the salad dressing, which you're drizzling over, not even realizing that it may not be halal suitable. Tomato sauce, yes, pure tomato sauce. Fortunately, the ones we have here are not synthetic sauces, but synthetic tomato sauce. One of our studies, we picked up that the flavor component in there had civet tincture, which is an extract from a gland in the anal area of the civet cat, which was problematic. Now, this would amaze you. This is Pakistan. You can see the 295 rupees. Visiting Pakistan in the early days before we introduced halal certification about 15 years ago there, walking through the supermarket, Al-Fatah supermarket, 295 rupees, which is about 30 rand for this mayonnaise type of sauce. But it's so clear that it contains country French white wine sauce with cream and chives. And, you know, the consumers, most of them can't even probably read, and those that can read probably don't even think that there could be any problem with a product in Pakistan. Obviously an imported product, not made locally, but there you are, as glaring as that, where in the front label, not even in small print on the ingredients, it said white wine sauce. Okay. This was also picked up in Pakistan, a no product, however it was imported at the time. And look at the ingredients. It's a product of France. It contained dried chicken 3.5% and chicken fat 2.5%. So, you know, we can't even we can't take products on face value. We've got to understand that every product has a critical area which needs to be looked at, and that competence of the halal certification body, the technical competence, the Sharia competence, is essential in order to certify a product. This was picked up also at one of our retail supermarket chains alongside our juice products. And a consumer brought it to our attention. I bought this product and it says sangria cooler, cranberry and apple, but only later to find out that cranberry and apple sangria is a blend of fruity white wine with a dash of cranberry and apple. Product of South Africa. Okay, so we've got to be circumspect. Then let's look at our juice product. So even if it's a 100% pure fruit juice blend, it means it doesn't contain anything besides fruit in there. And it doesn't contain any additional sweeteners, etc. It's 100% pure fruit juice blend. What is the clarification agent? Because you must remember, to sweeten these 100% juice blends, they need to use either an apple concentrate or a grape concentrate. What is the apple concentrate and what's the grape concentrate that goes in there? Okay, so the clarification agent in the apple concentrate, and if you pick up these juices, you'll see there apple concentrate. It's a kiwi juice, but it has an apple concentrate or a grape concentrate. That concentrate is actually the natural sweetening agent that is used. And concentrates are clarified. The clarification agent, if you make apple juice at home, you'll find it's quite misty and murky. But if you buy commercial apple juice, you'll find it's clear and transparent. That's because they clarify it. Now, you can use a non-gelatin clarification agent or a decloudifying agent, or you can use gelatin. And gelatin is commonly used by manufacturers. Okay, I think we're going to be running out of time, so I'm not going to go beyond this particular segment of the industry. We'll terminate it here. Energy drinks is becoming increasingly popular, and all of them are not halal compliant. What are the ingredients that are used in there? The amino acids that are used in there. What's the source of the taurine that is used in there? Is it synthetic? Is it of ox bile origin? So yes. What are the colorants that are used? What are colorants, flavorants are common in all of them, and obviously then the alcohol that we know about. But we're not going to go into this. This is indeed a very lengthy debate and discussion on itself. We're going to stop the program here, so at least we are within our time limit. And I was given 40 minutes, and those 40 minutes have expired. So we're going to give this now over to the question and answer session. But before we get there, maybe just in the conclusion statements, this is very important. To educate, and alhamdulillah, in South Africa we are very fortunate that we have an educator to a fair extent and a consumer that is aware. And this is alhamdulillah, if nothing else was achieved in the number of plants and products that we certify, we're proud of the fact that since the establishment of SANHA in the early 90s, we gave a lot of emphasis on education awareness at all levels, whether it's at industry level, Department of Trade and Industry, the DTI government level, industry level, and also consumer level. It gives you so much of pleasure when you're sitting on that helpline phone and you get a call coming in from a little infant or a little child of 3, 4, 5 years old and saying, Mawlana, my mommy is asking, or can I eat XYZ product? That gives you the utmost amount of satisfaction and fulfillment. Yes, it is a process of motivation, both at consumer level as well, and also at industry level, where they've got to understand. And alhamdulillah, in South Africa, it's been a very successful model, where industry has embraced extensively. They've embraced the concept of halal certification. Proactive industry approach. Halal alternatives must be provided. You can't just say haram, haram, haram without giving an alternative. So alternatives are important so that you don't put the community into a tight spot. And we should not lose sight of the fact that halal is a religious obligation. It is a demand of our faith, and that we should hold fast onto it for our salvation in this dunya and the akhirah. وما علينا إلا البلاغ والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Jazakumullah khairan to our respected presenter for having given us just a sneak peek into the technicalities and the intricacies in our food industry as we see it today. And obviously, whatever has been said is by way of example. This would probably extend to every other food item, and likely even other products such as body creams, etc., where we need to exercise caution, and we need to appreciate the fact that the things are not as simple as we would like it to be, and also great credit is to be given to our halal certification bodies in doing this great service for the Muslim community, where we can easily pick a product up from the shelf. Rest assured that when we see this logo on we can eat it, knowing well that there are the proper checks and balances in place to ensure that what we're eating is halal. So we would like to thank our presenter and now move on to some of the questions that have been posed. The first question is, will it be possible to have a standard approach for halal amongst all halal certification authorities in the country? Mawlana, if you can please answer that.
Yes, in fact, SANHA's establishment was for that very objective. objective that if we could hold hands and walk this path together, because of the fact that we all have a common objective and a common purpose, and that is to provide halal for our consumers, not only within South Africa, but beyond our borders. And this was, Sanha's concept was thought about for maybe 2.5 years before we all agreed. Every organization, every theological council, the jamiats of the various provinces, the halal certification bodies that were doing their activities, the small, the big, the major and minor ones, they all got together and Sanha was established. But unfortunately, Allah decreed otherwise. We had one dropping off and second one dropping off 5 years later, and a few dropping off thereafter. And now we're sitting on not just the 4 major bodies, but we're sitting on about 6 or 7 bodies at the moment, with the newer ones being established recently. Indeed, it is the ideal, and we should all strive and pray for that ideal. That inshallah, if Allah unite our hearts and we could all hold hands and work together under one umbrella, or if not under one umbrella, then let's set a standard and agree to a standard of certification that encompasses everybody. If you apply the stricter of the standard, everybody's included. If you're not going to do that, then obviously you're going to have the differences that we have currently and are trying to grapple with. But for the sake of the consumers, I agree 100% that the solution is to have one organization, or at least subscription to one common standard, and not only subscription, but also implementation to the fullest of that standard.
Jazakumullahu khairan. The next question: is there any scope in the Sharia for consumer ignorance? People commonly say that everything is halal until you know otherwise.
From this is a question for the muftis to answer. However, from the perspective of ignorance, when it comes to al-ibahatu hiya al-aslu fi kulli shay, that permissibility or neutrality is the rule in all things. This is besides products that are obviously meat related products. So if you have, alhamdulillah, if we were in a situation where South Africa didn't have any guidance at all, no direction, there were no halal certification bodies, there was no structures available to guide consumers, and you've got to apply your mind. You go to a shop and you ask the guy at the bakery, listen, do you use any animal fats? And he tells you no, or you assume that it's bread, you're buying it, you'd be absolved. Obviously, you can't do that with meat. You can't walk in and buy, just any meat from any supermarket and say, look, neutrality, it doesn't look like this piece of steak is haram, so I'm going to eat it. So where you are in a position that a product which is deemed intrinsically neutral, you don't know, and that ignorance is different from ignorance where you have alternatives that are in front of you that are guaranteed, and you opt for an alternative and you say, no, look, you know what, I'm just going to have this Black Forest cake, although it comes from this non-Muslim coffee shop, because it tastes nice, or because my friends frequent that place. There are alternatives. Go to a halal coffee shop, go to a halal bakery and buy your products. So we must maintain that balance and understand that where there are halal alternatives, let's not apply our discretion with products that may be problematic.
The next question is, what does the term halal friendly refer to?
Halal friendly is a term that has been coined by the hospitality industry, which we've written. Our public relations department has in fact written an article which you can find on our website about halal friendly. However, it's a coin that they've coined. It's a term that they've coined, which says, look, my chicken I buy from Muhammad's halal butchery, and my XYZ product comes from this halal certified plant. It's made within a non-halal environment where there's pork and every other non-halal product. But because my chicken comes from there, the guy will say, look, we're halal friendly, our chicken's halal friendly, or our steak is halal friendly, or our chops are halal friendly. There's nothing like halal friendly. It's either you're either pregnant or you're not. You can't be half pregnant. So there's nothing like halal friendly, which means our environment or place of preparation is half halal. No.
The next question is, how do certifying bodies balance Islamic ethics with the beliefs of manufacturers? For example, recent Jesus packaging. I'm not sure if you're aware of what this person is referring to.
No, look, we must keep this one important factor in mind, that halal certification is a testimony of the content of the product. So you go to a restaurant and, you know, some people raise this issue. People certify a restaurant, but the waitresses are wearing skirts. They're not wearing trousers and pants, you know, or there's decor on the walls that is not Islamic. These are matters beyond our control. The issue of religious beliefs, yes, most certainly, or something that is totally intrinsically offensive to the Sharia. For an example, there's promotion of gambling or promotion of alcohol or whatever else on the packaging design. We would object to it. And in a similar manner, this inscription that this particular third-party manufacturer had on his product saying Jesus is Lord, the minute it was picked up, they printed the packaging, and the minute our supervisor at the plant picked it up way back in March last year, immediately the packaging was isolated, cordoned off for disposal and destruction. And new packaging sans our logo, without our logo, was printed immediately. So yes, we do most certainly look at packaging design, etc. as well, so that we are not promoting whether it's incorrect belief or whether it's baneful practices in terms of our Sharia, or promotion of haram activity. That is looked at most certainly on packaging design, although it doesn't, again, have any impact on the halal status of the content, but purely because we don't want to promote any sinful activity or any wrongful belief, we definitely do not allow. Although they still do pack their chickens in that particular plant, that particular company, but they're not entitled to use our logo now.
The next question is, some people are of the opinion that non-Muslims slaughter is halal. Then why, oh no, sorry, non-Muslim slaughter is haram. Why must we impose halal certification? This question is not too clear. If I may ask the questioner to please rephrase that question, unless one understands what this question is asking.
I'm going to be guessing, I might be wrong, but the questioner can pose that question again. It appears the question is asking that why should we impose halal on non-Muslim people? There's no imposition of halal on non-Muslim people. A product is certified halal for consumers. The consumers have a choice whether they'd like to buy a product or don't like to buy a product, whether they associate with that particular company or with the particular quality of that product or the food and safety regulations of that particular company. So halal is not imposed on non-Muslims. Yes, industry are the people that make the choice and selection whether they would like to manufacture products in accordance with halal dietary rules. Once they agree, then and they wouldn't take that decision willy-nilly. They take that decision after doing a careful market study and understanding whether there is going to be value in the certification of that particular product or not. Obviously, Muslims do it with a dini value, and the non-Muslim would do it with a monetary value in mind.
Do certifying bodies cater for negligence in any way? So if the manufacturer or the outlet is seen to be negligent, uh, to what extent is that negligence accommodated?
It would all depend on the extent of the negligence. If it is negligence in terms of, for an example, you were supposed to submit your report and the report didn't come to us, or you know, something of an administrative nature, different. But if there's negligence in terms of negligence, one is error and one is negligence. If there is negligence in terms of halal requirements, it's not tolerated at all. There's immediate suspension and termination.
The next question, this is not so much related to the topic, more directed to relation to Sanha. What is Sanha's long-term vision and goal in regards to the halal industry and Sanha's role in it?
Well, you know, we're living in a global village. So, Alhamdulillah, there's our vision is that we, you know, the more and more we can get international role players, because you must remember to have to make a product, manufacture a product in South Africa, you would get components, ingredients, raw materials coming from a broad spectrum of the global industry, from Europe, from America, from Oceania, from Philippines, from Thailand, and living in a global village, we have attempted and continue to aspire towards unification here, to try and establish such a network globally where you are able to either develop, either share, knowledge sharing, networking, and able to create this global network so that certification becomes easier and the integrity of certification is taken to another level. This is a vision that we're aspiring to, and Alhamdulillah, towards that, we've got collaborative relationships with many countries already, stretching from South Africa, going right up to Seychelles. Seychelles was the last point that we dealt with about just over a year ago, and that's just in Africa. And obviously we've got in Southeast Asia, in Asia, Asia Pacific, as well as in the USA. So slowly but surely, inshallah, we will achieve this goal. And yes, long term in South Africa, to strengthen our infrastructure to such an extent, our expertise and competence to such an extent, and to become independent and self-sufficient, whereby we don't have to rely on non-Muslim laboratories, etc., for any support and help, where you know, halal certification bodies have specialized laboratories of their own that could cater for testing. These are a few of the long-term vision and goals that we've set.
There are a few questions relating to the slaughtering of the Ahlul Kitab, in light of the verse of Surah Ma'idah, just to shed some light on that, whether we can place reliance on non-Muslim slaughtering because they may be from the Ahlul Kitab, the Christian or the Jew, the faith.
You know, a very simple response to that. We had an opening for slaughter staff, and we had one of the West African persons also making such application, and the person came through, and we Muslim name, no problem, but in the interview process, we asked a few questions intrinsic to Islamic belief, and only to find out that the person is not Muslim. He was born from a Muslim father and a Christian mother, and they separated, and then the child was brought up as Christian with a Muslim name. So just trying to emphasize that we, you know, these days, when you're talking about belief systems, yes, the Quran is very explicit, and that verse stands اليوم أحل لكم الطيبات وطعام الذين أوتوا الكتاب حل لكم. The food of the people of the book is permitted for you. Are they even complying with the regulations required by their faith? We were here at the City Deep Municipal Abattoir with the Jamiatul Ulama Transvaal, now Jamiatul Ulama South Africa, who rendered services at the City Deep Abattoir for many, many years. And the Jewish community had slaughter once a week. On, I think it was on Mondays, Monday early mornings, that they used to come and do their kosher slaughter. And most certainly, the rabbi that used to do the slaughter, their prayer was only on the knife, on the instrument at the beginning of the day. So even the taking of Allah on the slaughter of each animal was not rendered. That is one aspect. If we generalize that in the broader context of Ahlul Kitab, where the Christians are also included, we have to check whether the person you are appointing for halal slaughter is Muslim or not. Imagine the difficulty that is going to be experienced in determining that Peter and Paul, who's slaughtering in Brazil, are they actually Christian? Or never mind Brazil, even in South Africa, whether they're Christian or not. Globally, halal certification bodies and the policy adopted by the World Halal Council as well has been that for halal purposes, we are, alhamdulillah, we have abundant of Muslims, and we should only accept slaughter that is done by Muslim hands. So slaughter of non-Muslims or slaughter of the people of the book is not accommodated by any halal certification body that we know of to date.
Another question that's come up here. Again, directed at Sanha. After Sanha withdraws a certificate for whatever reason, and the store still sells halal food, why does it sound to me that a certain doubt is created in the minds of people regarding the store when Sanha notifies
the public? Yes, this has been a sore point by certain quarters for a while, that when we issue a certificate, we notify the community that, look, we have a constituency that looks up to Sanha for that guidance. Many instances where the store is certified, we're not even aware that the non-Muslim owner is now seeking certification from somebody else, or is not going to be seeking certification. It didn't meet our requirements. We withdrew certification. We notify the people accordingly. That the certification has been withdrawn, and just to make them aware of it. Yes, it does create that level of caution within the minds of the consumer. Tomorrow, if somebody else certifies it, they will advertise it, and the consumer then has the choice whether they are comfortable with that certification and would like to continue patronizing that store. But yes, it has been a sore point, and we've also tried to clarify this issue in a number of our publications, which articles appear on the website to give the response that when we say certification has been withdrawn, we're not saying that the store is now going to be haram from tomorrow, unless we know that they've now added pork onto their menu, and therefore we want to add pork onto their menu and it's categoric, then we will say that. But where we don't, we'll simply say that certification has been withdrawn or terminated.
For halal products imported into South Africa, what procedures are in place to ensure that the certifying body in the country of origin is compliant to halal requirements?
Sorry, repeat that question. When a product is?
For imported products,
yes,
are halal certified, perhaps by an overseas certification body. Yes. What procedures are in place to ensure that that particular certifying body is fully compliant in terms of its halal standards?
Well, as part of our criteria is the integrity of the halal certification body who's certifying their product. Again, it would be how critical is the product. If the guy is certifying a citric acid, or a product of that nature, a maize starch or something, it's not as critical as him certifying beef that is being imported. So yes, critical products, we would need to not only determine the integrity of the halal certification body, but also there would be communication with the manufacturer to determine compliance to the requirements in that particular segment of the industry. So it's not just, you know, a piece of paper that comes through and you accept and say, okay, there's a certificate to the product. Verification. In many instances in the verification process, we've even picked up where the guy says, sorry, that certificate is fraudulent. We haven't issued that. You know, so we have those instances as well, but there is a formal process and due process which has to be followed before the bona fides of the certification body is established and the product integrity is guaranteed.
From a business perspective, this person is expressing his personal feeling. I personally feel that offering a professional service and maintaining the highest standards and procedures warrants a service for personal gain. Means that a revenue generating certifying body that employs people and pays salaries, and if run by an individual or board, he feels that they are making a living off the service. How do you manage the perception that certifying bodies are not supposed to charge, not make any money?
Look, the transparency and accountability is fundamental to make that determination. If it's a private PTY limited entity, obviously it becomes problematic. Sanha has from inception maintained community participation where organizations themselves were responsible for Sanha. So although that seems to be changing where a private trust is being created, but up until now, you know, it's been like that organizations nationally made up the executives of Sanha and they owned the organization per se. So, and yes, there's public meetings held, annual general meetings, financials are available for the people to see exactly what income is generated and what's the expenditure. So that transparency and accountability, if that is missing, then obviously, you know, then the company that's operating like a private PTY limited entity, that risk factor, you know, is most certainly there.
How does Sanha deal with a store that was certified and then later on starts to use haram products? And the question is specifically related to litigation. Can Sanha sue such a company?
Well, yes, most certainly. There is an agreement contract. There's like a 14-page agreement contract, which is a legally binding contract. And where there is a compromise of such severe nature, there definitely would be a case for litigation.
There's a question that is very specific product related. Milkshakes and ice cream from McDonald's or KFC?
You know, until and unless you do not have jurisdiction over a particular outlet and you are not fully aware of exactly what they're doing, what they're purchasing, what they're using, what they're making, how they're making, it's very difficult to give that assurance. In the absence of that jurisdiction, we definitely, our hands would be tied in making any statement.
There are a number of further questions, but we have exhausted our time, and we request anyone who has further questions to please get in touch with Sanha if it's halal related, and inshallah they will be able to answer your questions. We'd like to thank you for being an extremely engaging audience during the session, and a special thanks to our esteemed guest, Mawlana Muhammad Saeed Navlakhi from Sanha, for having delivered an extremely insightful presentation, which we can measure from the number of questions that have come out of it. Jazakumullah khairan. And inshallah, we look forward to having further engagements on the DeenPro platform with yourselves and with our attendees this afternoon. Jazakumullah khairan. And we we hope that it has been beneficial for all. The recording of this particular session will be made available to all those who have registered sometime within the next few days. So please look forward to that. And please do feel free to contact us through the DeenPro team or Sanha for further questions on this topic. Jazakumullah khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.